Welcome everybody to this online open day for the Bachelor of Science on Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. My name is Joost Broekens. I am the study advisor as well as associate professor of this particular study. And this is...
My name is Job van Dijken and I'm a student and a student ambassador of this study.
So welcome, and we're going to tell you a little bit about what it means to do this particular bachelor at Leiden University. But of course, let's start with some of the basics. Of course, we assume that you have some interest in data science and artificial intelligence. So let's go over some of the sort of popular examples of what people think of when they talk about or think about data science and AI. So of course, we think about robots and about automation. We think about robots helping us in factories, as shown on this particular picture from a factory called Glory in Japan. But there are other things we think about as well. And one of the things is, of course, self-driving cars, an idea that's been there for quite some time. You see one of the self-driving cars developed by Google on the right side of the screen. It's still not on our streets, but the idea of self-driving cars is very old. And self-driving cars also are interesting because of two things. One is there's a lot of investment and a lot of effort in making these cars intelligent enough to drive by themselves. But on the other hand, every time we think we solve this particular problem, then there are exceptions. And cars need to actually learn quite a lot about what they do. So self-driving cars, they can't really drive just by programming them. They have to learn about interactions they experience when they are driving. Tesla also does this. When you buy a Tesla, Tesla records situations, and when something unexpected happens, when you hit the brakes, then that data is actually uploaded to Tesla for them to analyze what happened. This is all data science and artificial intelligence, of course.
So this is also a famous known application of AI. It's called AlphaGo. In the meantime, there are loads of other developments in this area. So now we have AlphaZero and AlphaGo Zero. And what you see here is Lee Sedol, the world champion at that time. I'm not sure if he still is, of the game Go, which is a sort of chess, but a bit more complex even. And he was playing against the computer, and the computer beat him. And this was something very new, that the computers were actually starting to beat the best human players that we have. And this computer was trained by actually also looking at previous Grandmaster games, such as Lee Sedol's games, but also by playing himself. And the newer iterations have skipped the part where they learn from the Grandmaster games, because the Grandmasters don't play perfect. So if the computer wants to play perfect, it shouldn't learn from imperfect games. So now they switch to a strategy where they don't look at old games, but only try to improve on it itself.
Yes, so the algorithm really learns how to play, and I think that's a very, very interesting development. Another very different approach or different application of AI is robots in, for example, nursing homes. Now this is a robot, they call this lifting robot. So this is a robot that helps to lift people so that personnel doesn't have to do that. There are many other kinds of lifting robots, but there are also robots that are there only for companionship. And there's this small seal robot called Paro, maybe you know it. And this is really only there for companion and for making people at ease, because of course in many nursing homes pets are not allowed. So this is also an application of robotics and of AI. Ex machina, so let's move a little bit towards, let's say, the science fiction future of AI and the things that people, of course, believe that might happen or might not happen. Ex Machina, a nice movie. We will not give away the plot, of course, but it's about AI becoming sentient, AI becoming conscious, having an own will, and this is, of course, an interesting topic, and we won't be able to answer here if that's possible, and probably when you're done with your studies here, if you choose to do so, then you won't be able to answer that question either, because it's a very philosophical question, of course. But it becomes an important question to ask. Can computers, when they are sufficiently advanced in their learning and thinking capabilities, can we really call them sentient? And this is a movie. but I'm gonna get back to an example later, or actually Job is going to get back to an example later of a recent event where someone actually thought that it might actually be there already. Okay, now completely different, of course. It's data science and artificial intelligence, and a big part of data science is, of course, the smart processing of data. And this is here an example of a data-driven, let's say, governance application to sort of control and predict and find out how, in this case, COVID-19 infections grew and where most cases were, etc., etc. And there have been, of course, many countries that have been using a lot of these data for managing the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's another completely different application, but it is data heavy, and there's also a lot of algorithms involved here processing this data. Now, we see AI, we see it in popular science. We usually, when you see it, it's about robots taking over the jobs, or maybe becoming new employees, or robots becoming conscious. But I hope that a lot of the other examples also showed that this is not necessarily the case, although some people still are afraid of this. And of course, robots could change the job market. They will change the job market. Any form of progress or any form of automation will do so. It doesn't mean that everybody is left without a job. It may mean that people get different jobs, or it may mean that we can get jobs of a different quality, maybe even higher quality. It depends a bit. So a lot of people think robots might at some point do this. Now, this is a picture of Pepper. Pepper is a robot that will definitely not take a job. We have Peppers at the university, and Peppers are very cool to work with. And once you work with them, you realize that you still have to teach them a lot. And they're not ready to take over any job, but it's a very nice platform to do research and to do education with, of course.
Okay, so this is the story where actually the Google, well, it wasn't a developer, it was actually not even an engineer, it was something from the psychology department. He believed that their AI they were developing at Google was becoming sentient, or having its own thoughts. And not a lot of people necessarily agreed with it, but he was the first one from a large company that said, hey, we might have achieved a sentient AI. Well, there was some, I think he got fired, so as I said, not everyone agreed. But this does show that there's like a first step. We are getting there, that there might become sentient AIs. So what does that exactly mean? Well, as I mentioned very briefly, that someone or something, in this case, is having its own thought. And you shouldn't imagine this AI as a robot, because it probably isn't, and that's also not their point of this experiment in creating the AI. But it's just a computer-driven program that can voice its own thoughts in either text or speech.
And then the question, of course, still remains. Is it really thinking? Or is it something that's more of a simulation of a thought? Or maybe it's just data processing. So it's difficult to ask the computer, because the computer will say, yes, I have thoughts. That's the funny thing. Okay, but who knows? Okay, let's move a little bit more sort of to the practical parts. Hey, you see that this topic of data science and AI is nowadays everywhere. And hey, you might choose this because you think it's an interesting topic, or because you think you get a good job afterwards. And it's definitely the case that we do need very well schooled and intelligent people to do the more difficult parts of this type of AI. And this is really what you are choosing for if you're doing data science and AI bachelor here. So let's go over the rest of this presentation. So this was sort of the informal introduction to data science and AI. Let's go over this structure now. First, the program structure. What can you expect when you come here and you study here? Then, why would you study at Leiden University? We'll tell you a little bit about the locations that you can find here and what the campus looks like. a little bit about what student life is, and of course what can you do and what can you become. And then we're ready to answer some questions afterwards. Okay. So the Data Science and AI Bachelor itself is essentially built out of sort of 3 pillars of types of courses that you get. You have cognitive psychology courses, you have really artificial intelligence courses, you have data science courses, and then you have research methods. And underneath all of this, there is a strong basis in computer science, as you will see in the next slides. Artificial intelligence course can computers reason? Can they learn? How do you program a computer, or how do you learn a computer to win a game of Go? Data science, how can you process large amounts of data efficiently? But also, how do you study a particular research question? What kind of statistical methods do you need? That's in research methods. And then, of course, what is information processing in natural intelligence, in human beings or in animals? That's the cognitive psychology part. So this is sort of the collection of topics that you can experience when you're studying data science and AI in Leiden. So what does the program structure look like? Well, it's a 3-year bachelor, and each year has what they call 60 study points or European credits. So 3-year times 60 is 180. And the first year is what we call the propeduise year, and that's also 60 ECs. And these ECs, you can gather these ECs by making practical work and your exams, and then having a sufficient grade. And then you'll get for each course you pass, you get, let's say, 3 or 6 points, usually 3 or 6. Now, what's important to know in Leiden is that for this particular program, we have what they call a binding study advice, and that means that if you have lower than 45 or less than 45 ECs, then you will get the advice to not continue the study, and it's a binding advice, which means it's not an option, so you're actually sent away. So it's just interesting that they call this an advice. It's a binding advice. So that's something you need to do. You need to realize, especially when you come from abroad, of course, that for all of the bachelors in Leiden, but this bachelor in particular, because it's an English bachelor, so all of the courses are taught in English, international bachelor. It's important to realize that this and of course it won't happen to you, but it is something that you have to know. Now, there are about 20 contact hours per week, which means like lectures and coursework, usually where the coursework is done in small classrooms with 30 people at the same time, 30, 40 at max. Now, if you look on the right side, you see of the slides, you see a pie chart, and this will give you a little bit of a flavor of the distribution of the different courses that you can expect. So 30% of the whole program is really a computer science part. So this is things like programming or algorithms or databases. And then there's a part that is mathematics, so that's 13% approximately. So this is things like algebra or linear algebra or calculus. And then there is a part that's academic skills, which is a small part. Actually, it's missing in the pie chart, I see. But anyway, there is a part academic skills like research. Is it in there?
Yeah, it's the green part.
No. Oh yeah, you're right. It's a weird color for academic skills. Okay. But anyway, so academic skills. It's that's the dark green part. Yeah, it is. So 13%. So that's like research questions. What kind of studies can you do in computer science? What is a simulation? And the thesis. Yeah, exactly. Then there's an elective minor part, 17%. We'll get back to that later. And then there are artificial intelligence specific courses and data science specific courses. Okay. Now, let's go and look a little bit at these years. I already told that. So lectures, work groups, practical coursework, that's the type of things you will get. That's actually very typical of any computer science related study. There's a lot of lab work, a lot of programming to do for many of the courses. So it's a very theoretical on the one hand, but it's also very practical building stuff on the other hand.
Most courses do have some kind of practical coursework.
Yeah. These courses are, of course, led and taught by the different staff, but also PhD students and student assistants. So that are students that have already passed the course last year or the year before that, and they were good at it, and then they help you in, for example, the practical coursework or the work groups. Okay, so the first year is really a basic year. It has a lot of computer science courses. I won't go over each of them because it won't really sort of resonate with something for most of you, but you can see according to sort of the color of the course is whether it's a real computer science course or whether it's more like a mathematics course. And you see that there are some basic in mathematics, calculus, linear algebra. That's like the sort of the orange-pink color, and then there is a heavy computer science part in the first year. So introduction to programming, logic, algorithms, etc. So that's the first year. It's a basic year. It's even so the case that the first year shares, well, approximately, I think, 48 or even 50, I think 52 ECs with the computer science year. So the computer science and the data science and AI are very similar with respect to their first year. But the second year is very different. The second year has a lot of AI and data science specific courses. Of course, some computer science, like software development and security, but also things like human-robot interaction, machine learning, so how do you teach machines to learn stuff, neural networks, introduction to neural computing. Anyway, so this is all really data science and AI specific. And then in the third year, there is the option for a lot of electives or a minor, and you do your thesis. So this is a bit a bachelor thesis. So you end your study with a bachelor thesis. That's like about a quarter of a year. So that's 15 ECs, and you do a small research project, and you write a scientific report about it. And then when you finish all your courses as well, then you get your diploma after 3 years. So this is what the years look like. But why would you do it in Leiden?
Apparently because it's founded in 1575.
Yes, a very good reason.
That's why you should go to Leiden. No, but that it is already such an old university does mean that we have, as a university, quite strong relations with other universities, which is fun when you want to go abroad or when you want to go to another university in the Netherlands. It is very well known, and also the study itself is quite high regarded. So when you later apply for a job or a master or for another university for a different bachelor, they will know Leiden, or they will know that the bachelor itself is a somewhat decent bachelor, or somewhat decent bachelor, very decent bachelor. Besides that, it's also a very fun city for students especially, because it's a true student city. There are loads of students, also loads of international students. The entire city center is absorbed by all these students. And besides Leiden itself, our program in Leiden is also much more computer science focused than most of the other data science and AI courses.
Yeah. It's a very technical data science and AI bachelor. Yeah.
As you already saw, our first year is very much dedicated to becoming a good computer scientist itself. And only after the first year, we start with the truly AI-related courses, because we believe that you do need the computer science part. And what you see in the other universities is that they teach you much more about the psychology part of AI.
And philosophy.
And we do acknowledge that it exists, it's just not our focus. So on the bottom row you can see a few of the locations that you will go to. From left to right, the most left picture is the old lecture building. It's getting renewed at the moment. Next to that you see the Leiden Bioscience Park picture. This is where all the buildings are located, and it is just a large place in Leiden where the buildings are, but also some of the companies that use the students that come from our study. Next to that, you see a relatively new building, where unfortunately you will not get any lectures, but in the future you will. And to the most right part of that, you see the Gorleis, and it's the building that we share with computer science itself. So not only do the studies relate very much, but they are also physically present in the same building. So I already mentioned the student life briefly, but the study itself also has a study association. It's called the Leidensflat, and it's shared between physics, astronomy, math, so the true computer science related courses. And with the study association, you will do mostly fun things, such as you will have a first year's weekend, or there's a chess tournament. There's also, I think it's called Tosti Woensdag, where you will have lunch together. Besides that, there are also student associations. So this is an association where you will have fun not only with students in the related fields, but also law students or medicine students, which are also present in Leiden. I already mentioned that there are loads of international students. That's only growing because this study has just fully translated to English. So each year we will expect more international students. That does mean that housing is very limited at the moment. And if you want a house in Leiden, which you probably will, especially if you are from abroad, we recommend to apply as early as possible and start looking actually right now.
Yeah, and it is not just for foreign students a problem. Housing in Leiden and the Leiden area is very difficult to get. The Hague, for example, or Noordwijk or other places are also good options to start with.
And
actually,
the train
so
and
look around.
Bike are very good ways of transporting yourself to the university.
Yeah, public transport is very good in the Netherlands as well. That's me again, I think. Yes. Mm-hmm. So, what can you do? Why would you do all of this effort of coming here, studying here 3 years, doing a bachelor thesis, and then what can you do with it? So, in general, you can do two things. So, and this slide is on the first thing. So you can continue with a master, or you can work. And with a bachelor, you're fully graduated, you know a lot, so you're ready to actually do very interesting stuff. So this is on the types of masters, this slide. You can of course continue in a master in computer science, so finishing the data science and AI bachelor will give you automatic right to also continue in a master in computer science at Leiden University. You can do, if you're more interested in business, you can do a master ICT in business, or if you're more interested in the public sector and ICT, then you can do a computer science and public sector master. And this bachelor will give you automatic access to those. Further, of course, there are many other masters in the Netherlands related to, for example, artificial intelligence or robotics, and you can also continue those masters. And of course abroad as well, because it's a very solid bachelor, like Job already told you. It's a bachelor with a lot of focus on having core computer science skills, but a real specialization afterwards in AI. So you will be allowed to do many other masters abroad as well. Now another line that's interesting is for people who are more cognitive psychology sort of interested, is there are a lot of options for electives that are in the area of cognitive psychology, or let's say information processing in nature. And if you choose all of those electives, then you can also, with just a couple of extra courses, do a master in cognitive psychology, applied cognitive psychology. So that's also good to know for those who might be interested in that. Of course, you can also work when you're ready. with your bachelor thesis. And like I said, you have key competences in the field of data science and AI. You know how to program, you know how to develop these learning systems, you know what the theory beneath this is. So you're a very able person after this. And well, actually, Job is currently working at a startup and doing his master.
I just started as a software developer at a startup, which does mean that at the moment I have a little less time for my masters. But it is one of the paths you can choose to go into.
Yeah. And other ideas, other possibilities are data and AI specialists, consultants, engineer, machine learning engineer. So there are many different types of things that you can actually do with a data science and AI bachelor, apart from continuing your studies in a master or maybe even a PhD later. But that's for later. Yeah, I think that's the sort of the plenary stuff that we had planned.
Yeah.
So if there are any questions, then we can answer them. Okay, so how does this work? We get the question on the screen here and then... And then we repeat it? Okay. So the question is, would you recommend someone who has never studied computer science but is good at math to take this bachelor's degree? It's a question by Diego. Okay, so Diego, I think that the answer is almost everybody who starts a data science and AI bachelor or computer science bachelor never had computer science background. Because I think there's at least in the Netherlands, there is no real computer science in high school. You get it a little bit, like playing around with computers, maybe doing some website or stuff. But most people, I would say 2/3 of the people who start a computer science related bachelor never did any programming. So definitely, if you are good in math and if you like this kind of abstract problem solving stuff, then this is definitely a study that you could do. Yeah. You do need to. What is important? Maybe I'll go to the next question. Important is to find out maybe if programming is something you like or you hate. Yeah. Okay, because you do it a lot. It's like when you're a carpenter, you do you need to work with tools as well. You have a hammer, you have a saw, and I mean it's not that when you're a carpenter you like hammers and saws, right? I mean it's your tool, but you also shouldn't hate them, and that's the way you should look at it from a for computer science scientists. Programming is their tool, and if you hate it, then it's going to be difficult.
I also think the same goes for mathematics. If you truly hate mathematics, it will be a tough course because there is definitely some mathematics. But you will need it for some assignments.
So next question by Antonios. Do you think the AI and data science interest has increased in the past years? If yes, why is that? So from my perspective, yes, definitely. I'm assuming you mean the interest in doing this study, because that's, I think, in general, I think data science and AI has become very popular. But as the examples in the presentation that Job and I gave, you could see that. But yes, and why is that? To be honest, why? Maybe because big companies are pushing it,
because of those examples,
or maybe because of those examples. Yeah. Hello. What extra requirements do I need to meet if my high school diploma is not equal to the Dutch pre-university diploma? My school is located in Moscow, Russia, and specialized in mathematics, physics, and informatics. Okay, so Leiden has a central a department that does all of the international admissions. It's the International Admissions Office, and I think for your particular case, you should simply if you're serious about data science and AI, you can enroll, and then you can actually, your application will be reviewed by them, and you will hear that. But it's important to know is that if you have a sufficient background in mathematics, and it is equal to the mathematics sort of level that you get at the Dutch schooling system, then in general there is no problem getting admitted. But it's reviewed.
Contact information, you can just Google Leiden University Admissions Office,
and you can email them as well. Is that Diego? That's the same, Diego. Regarding learning AI, would you say it is easier to learn if you have strong mathematical or programming foundations? I think
in in the bachelor, you don't need it. You don't need the foundations already because we will start with the foundation. That's where you're here for.
Yeah.
Not to say that you only will get the foundations. You will continue much further than that. But if you already have some programming knowledge, then of course it will get a bit easier.
Yeah, it facilitates the start of the study, definitely.
But regarding AI, to learn that, as you already mentioned, our first year is dedicated to learning those basics. So yeah, we also believe that you do need the programming and the mathematical knowledge to actually start learning AI.
Yeah. I'm going to go to a question by Timotheus, I think. So, what are some of the prerequisites to have before starting the bachelor, I believe you mean? So I think that question, the specific answer to that question depends on what high school diploma you have in what country, and you should ask those questions to the Leiden admission office. We don't know that by heart, and we can't tell that, but it should be equivalent to the Dutch, what they call the Dutch VWO diploma, which is the Dutch 6-year general sort of preparatory school for university and higher education. But it depends on the country. Is it possible in this program to take electives minors from other courses such as mathematics? Yes. In the data science and AI program, in the 3rd year, there is a 30 EC, so that's half a year of elective that you need to choose. And you can also choose a minor from another study for that 30 EC electives, yes, also abroad. Are there any possibilities of exchange? Yes.
There are quite a few of them. If you want to go on an exchange program, I would recommend the 2nd year. I think it's the easiest because the 3rd year is a bit more hectic with already the electives, although you could also do your electives abroad.
A minor abroad, for example.
And your 1st year is probably also a bit hectic as you just started at the university. So in general, the 2nd year is the easiest to go abroad.
Okay. Does the Bachelor of Science for Data Science and AI give opportunities for a career in game design? Okay, I happen to know a little bit about game development, etc. And I think if you really mean a career in game design, then the answer is no. I think that this is not the study you should choose as a basis for becoming a game designer, and even I think a game programmer or someone developing games or game concepts or gaming related aspects. There are other programs that are more suited to that. Now, that's not to say that it's not possible, but it's not something that has a focus on game development and game design.
You could, for example, if they study, make the AI players, so the computer you are playing in the games.
Exactly.
That is a field that you could go into.
Yeah. What is the dropout rate for the program? And if you not achieve the 45 EC, can you try the 1st year again? Okay, so the dropout rate is difficult to say now, because now, as we speak, this is the 1st year that we have the international bachelor. So this bachelor program runs already for its 4th year, but now it's the 1st year where we opened it up in English internationally. So you guys and girls will become the 2nd sort of 2nd year. So we don't know the dropout rates, given that there are now already 2/3 of the students that are actually international students. So I don't know. Now, before that, it was about 40% that dropped out. So when it still was a Dutch-only a program, it was 40%. If you don't get your 45 study points, you cannot retry the same study the year later. So the answer to that question is no.
I think you can if you wait for 3 years.
Exactly. If you wait for 3 years, you can, but you have to wait for 3 years. You can do another, let's say, computer science related bachelor, by the way, but you can't do the same. Yeah. How much of the study consists of psychology and how much of programming? Okay, so it depends on your electives. There are about, I would say, about 24 ECs of psychology courses that are mandatory, I think, now, sort of.
Even a bit less.
Less, I think, yeah. Maybe 18, and then the rest are electives. So there's like the introduction to cognitive science now, there is cognitive modeling and cognitive robotics. I think those are the, and then you can choose other cognitive psychology courses.
Most of these courses also still have programming in them. Cognitive robotics still has a programming part.
Yeah, and many of the courses, actually most of the courses, deal with programming in one language or another. So it's maybe important to realize that in a university program like this one, you will encounter many different platforms for programming. Of course, we use Python and we use C, but you also encounter Java. You might encounter some database query languages like SQL. So programming really is a tool for us. So that's something, you don't get like a course how to become an expert in language X, right? The language is there for you as a tool to teach you something about algorithms.
You more or less focus on getting you adjusted to programming than necessarily teaching
learning the language.
A language.
Would you recommend someone to pick this study or computer science without being great at math? That's a question by Johan. That depends. If you would ask me that question, you could actually answer back. I would ask, what does that mean, being great at math, right? So from personal experience, at high school, I wasn't great at math. Now, I didn't do that much either. So that might be the reason why I wasn't great at math. But the point is that if what Job also already answered the question. If you hate it, and if you really have to work very hard to pass, then it might be a difficult choice. Yeah, but is it hard to transfer to the second year of this bachelor from another university? I'm currently studying computers. Is it hard? Well, actually, we don't do that in general. So it's not possible to transfer to the second year. It's only possible to enroll for the first year. And what you then have to do, and that is difficult, you will have to apply if you want to get exemptions for courses, but you have to apply for every course that you want an exemption for, with proof that you had that course already earlier of the same level and the same or more EC, European credits. So it's possible, but you will never transfer to the second year of the bachelor. You will always go into the first year and then apply for course exemptions.
In general, I also recommend not transferring too many courses because, well, the names of the courses might actually be the same, not necessarily the contents of the courses will be the same. That's especially true to the AI courses that scope a much broader field than, for example, linear algebra. They generally learn the same.
I think this is a question you should answer.
What is the most complex mathematics that will be learned in the course? It is a very difficult question to answer because I don't know what you think is the most complex mathematics, but in my opinion, I think automated theory. So it's the mathematics that focuses mostly on the state of certain systems. I think that is the course that most people find the most difficult. But there are also people that find linear algebra very difficult. So.
Yeah. Or derivatives, or
logic. It's also one of the mathematics courses, and also some of these mathematics courses, they look like mathematics courses, but some people might view them as computer science courses, and the other way around as well. So it's difficult to say.
Does the university have partnerships with different companies in order to allow internships? No, I don't think so. Not necessarily partnerships with companies. That being said, you can do internship, but an internship is not part of the program, as you might have seen in the first 3 years. So there's no study component that says internship. Now, what you can do is you can do your bachelor thesis with a company, but you would always have to have a university professor also supervising that at the same time. Is an RBT enough to be accepted? Well, that's funny you asked that. So yes, and you would have to check the exact requirements with respect to the percentage that you need in order to prove the math skill. But it's not the only thing. You also need, of course, an appropriate high school diploma, right?
But you even need a certain
yeah.
English level.
Also,
because
yeah.
the bachelor is in English.
But with respect to math, an OMPTD test with, I don't know, 60%, it was something like that. But you need to check the percentages yourself also at the admission office and the admission requirements for this bachelor. How many student intake in DSI each year in total? How many student intake in DSAI each year and total student study in computer science faculty? Also, how many apply to the DSI course each year? So, I mean, I think you mean the program, not the course. This is a question by Manas. This year we had about 300, I think, incoming students for all computer science related bachelors. So that's including data science and AI. And about half of that this year was for data science and AI. So 150. Now we don't really know what next year will bring. This was a bit different 2 years ago. We had about the same number. So we had like 270 2 years ago. Not this year, but last year, 270. And of that, there were at that point, I think, 65 data science and AI specialization students. So the sort of the distribution changed a bit, but the total number stayed more or less the same, grew a little bit. I'm considering to study either AI as my bachelor or computer science and engineering at TU Delft, and specializing in AI for my master. What are the main differences between these two paths? A question by Avi. Okay, well, that's a difficult question because I think that. Let me answer that in two ways. First, if you go to the website and you can find out the exact courses that you will get, both in Leiden as well as in Delft. So if you really want to know what the exact difference is, then I suggest you go and look at the curricula, which is just and they're just public, so you can check it, and you don't need to be a student to see the content for that. You can really have a look at individual courses, what they give you. And you can do that in both Delft and Leiden. Now, I know Delft a little bit. I've worked in Delft for 10 years. And Delft is, I would say, more focused in general on software engineering and software development in many, in the way they approach it. So if you really want to become like an excellent software engineer, then maybe Delft is a better choice. If you want to become more of a data science and AI specialist, as well as, let's say, more science oriented, then I think Leiden would be a better choice.
Although I must still say, if you want to become a software developer, I do not necessarily believe that the university is the best approach to do such a thing.
No.
Because it's still, both universities are still quite theoretical.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not the quickest way to becoming a good software engineer, and they also don't necessarily teach you programming to become a software engineer. It's just, we think it's something you need for this bachelor, but otherwise it wouldn't be included.
Yeah. What kind of projects do you program during your studies? By Kiefer. What kind of project? That's a very difficult. That can be so many different projects.
Yeah,
every course has a practical.
That you're programming a small robot to, for example, follow a black line on the ground, or that a virtual maze gets solved by a virtual robot.
Yeah, with some AI mechanism underneath. You implement machine learning algorithms in Python and for machine learning
also
courses. Neural networks. In general, the projects you get are related to the content of the course to sort of get you really sort of acquainted with the nitty-gritty details of the theory. Yeah. What programming language? So that's, so we already partly answered this question. There is not a specific language that you learn. We do use Python a lot in the data science and AI bachelor, but it's definitely not the case that that's the only language you will learn. And you will actually have to learn to use other languages as well.
Although switching between languages is very easy.
Yeah, it will become something you can do.
If you want to get a head start, which you don't need to, but then I would start with learning Python.
Yeah. Do you offer scholarships? I honestly do not know the answer to that question, Valerio. I don't know. You should have a look at the website for that. I haven't encountered that, but I don't know. What was the acceptance rate last year? Maybe you can. I don't know what you mean with this question. Maybe you can rewrite the question and check it, because
it's not like Leiden University
Yeah.
or this program specifically gets so many.
we don't
admissions
select.
that we have to select. We have still room for
Yeah.
everyone. Although you do see that the number for DSAI is growing at the moment.
Yeah.
What there is for the admissions is a very small test.
Yeah, it's a match. There's a obligatory matching program, so you have to do the matching, and that means that you have to listen to a couple of lectures, make some questions about the lectures, and do a couple of questionnaires, and that it takes about between 8 and 16 hours of your time, I think, for the matching, and then that after the matching, after you finish the matching and all of the other prerequisites are okay, then in principle you are admitted.
And if you do the test very terrible, you can still get admitted.
Yeah, but it might not be a good idea.
It might not be a good idea, because we do believe that the matching test
Yeah.
is only meant for
Yeah.
you to know if it's a good idea to
Yeah.
go and study this.
And the matching deadline, I think, ends. Well, you should check the website, but I think it's somewhere in
March.
May or March. Yeah. Well, okay. Is this university diploma recognized by other universities? Yes. Oksana, yes. Does the application process have any special requirements? No. Well, e.g. motivation letter, numerous fixes. I missed the start of the talk, sorry. Okay, so Emma, so there's no numerous fixes for this study that Job just told you. And there's also no motivation letter, but there is the required matching. So you have to apply, and then you will get enrolled in a matching class, and then you'll have to do all the activities for the matching, and if you don't do them, then you won't be admitted. So it's required to do that. It's not required to pass them, but it's required to participate. Can you show the electives again? If not, where can I see them? So no, I cannot show them again, but you can actually look at the Leiden University site and then check for the data science and AI courses. And they're just public on the website. Maybe we can post a link somewhere, but I think if you just Google,
If
you can
Google
find them.
data science and AI Leiden
Yeah.
University, then you'll find all the information.
What are the requirements in this bachelor's admission? Yeah, so a lot of, I understand all of the questions about, Rocio, that's also a good question, but we don't know the specific requirements for each individual. So I can tell you that the requirements are, you have to have a Dutch 6-year sort of generic diploma equivalent for high school, and you have sufficient English skill, and you have to have sufficient math skill. Those are the admissions. But what that means for you specifically, it could mean that you have to do this OMPTD test. It could mean that you have to do an English test. But of course, if you come from an English school, you don't have to do an English test. So this is different. If, for example, you have a diploma from Belgium, you actually don't have to do any test if you did the 6-year generic Belgium schooling system, I know. And that's the same for other schools in different countries. So that really depends. And you should check that on the admission guidelines, admission page.
For Dutch people, it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
You need VWO with wiskunde B, so mathematics B.
Yeah, VWO wiskunde B.
Does the matching test include examination in, for example, maths or computer science? No, it actually doesn't. And the matching test is, as already shortly mentioned, it's not made to test you or to test your skills. It's made to see if you like the program.
Yeah, it's really matching. Yeah, like dating, right? It's a date between you and the study. And if you like each other, then it's okay. If you don't like each other, you can still go on. Yeah, but there are some risks involved. Yeah. Data science and AI is popular today. Do you think it will stay relevant in the next 6 to 7 years for pursuing a career? Yes, absolutely.
it is also something
Yeah.
we skipped over it, but somewhere in the slides there was this book that we mentioned, and it has a list of what people would study if they could choose their career path again. And the number one on that list is data science or AI. And those are people that they couldn't choose this
Because it
bachelor
wasn't
because
there.
it wasn't there. But now most people do think
Yeah.
it's something they would switch to.
Yeah, so computer science in general is going to stay relevant, and data science and AI is going to stay relevant as well. So, if you want to start studying in advance this summer for data science and AI, what course would you recommend? Well, I think Job already answered that. If you don't have a background in programming at all, then I think the best thing you can do to prepare is to get accustomed with programming in Python, and to just start and do some fun projects for yourself. Build a game, build some web crawler, do some small, build a phone book to find out if you can do that, and it's really to get accustomed with that. That does help. If
It
you know,
is not mandatory.
required.
No.
No. No.
I did not have very much programming knowledge in advance.
And he did very well.
And I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I think our time is up. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joost, for being here.
Yeah, thank you Job for being here. And is there any online? Yeah, there can always.
I will
ask
still
questions.
be at the
Yep.
chat desk, so if you still have any questions, you can send them to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye.